It's hard to believe, but Cinco Ranch is rounding on 35 years old. It continues to be a destination for people who are relocating to the west side, and especially Katy, Texas. And as a resident and realtor, I'm going to share with you today some of the pros and the cons of living in the area. This isn't just going to be the glossy things that you'd find in a brochure, but the things that you would hope a friend would tell you over a cup of coffee. Hi, I'm Carolyn Bauerschlag, a local real estate agent helping people just like you relocate from all over the country right to our great city. Let's get to it. The first major pro of living in Cinco Ranch is, of course, the amenities. You will be hard-pressed to find any master plan community on the west side that's better than Cinco. In Cinco alone, there's over 90 different pocket parks. There's 11 different water park style pools, and you have tons and tons of walking trails. I believe they've pegged it at over several hundred miles. They also made a really specific effort when this community was developed to reserve green spaces for free play, right? So you see a ton of sports teams that are out doing baseball practice or soccer practice or lacrosse, like out on these shared green spaces all the time. And there's waterways that you can use as well, like if you wanted to do any kind of water sports, so like boating, kayaking, catch and release fishing, all of those things have been thought about and accounted for. The majority of people that move out to Cinco, I would say, are either with a family or considering a family in the future. We also have quite a few retirees that really just enjoy the kind of like that idyllic feel. Quite frankly, Cinco Ranch is really very beautiful when you drive through it. A ton of effort has been made. It's an amenity in and of itself to have very mature trees, beautiful landscaping. The crepe myrtles are kind of iconic in Cinco Ranch. So if you're considering moving to the area, I would say amenities are far and away the number one. The second pro of living in Cinco is kind of tricky unless you've driven through Cinco and you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to try to explain myself here. The aesthetic of Cinco is exceptional. And what I mean by that is like Katy, Texas was just like flat ground, like rice fields, no trees really to speak of, like just kind of a bald terrain. And what the developers did is they said, we're going to make a concerted effort to make this feel wooded, lovely, beautiful, right? So the aesthetic in Cinco is really quite impressive. The community spans 8,000 acres, and it was developed over that 35-year time period. And that vision that was carried out over 35 years to be cohesive to me is rather impressive. So Cinco's kind of known for like their esplanades having really mature, beautiful trees. The crepe myrtles, I would say, is kind of iconic. So those are really beautiful flowering trees that are kind of in the middle of all of the roads and boulevards. They've done a really great job to have things like brick fences that are uniform that line all of these streets. And then when you go into these individual sections, whether they were built 35 years ago or just finished building out a few years ago, what you'll see is that all of the homes are grouped by size, like lot size. So they're similarly sized homes with like traditional brick exteriors. And I think what that's done for the community over time is really help improve that appreciable look. And it's made the community feel really insulated, quiet, calm, secure. It's a really beautiful place to come home. So I would say that is frequently cited as the number one that people really love, is that when they're driving around, all of a sudden they know they're in Cinco because of the beautiful look to it. The third major pro of living in Cinco Ranch is that every single school in the neighborhood is going to be zoned to Katy ISD. Now, this is a relief to a lot of people because they're usually moving to the west side to get into a better school district. We joke with people all the time that no one moves out to Katy because they believe in the commute, right? Like if you're living in Katy, you're going to commute. But the reason typically is driven by the excellent school district that we have. Now, the reason I bring this up is that there are some neighborhoods that are on the westward side of Katy where that Katy ISD boundary line actually splits the neighborhood. But if you live in Cinco Ranch, every single school within Cinco Ranch is zoned to an exceptional Katy ISD school. A fourth major benefit of living in Cinco Ranch is that you are in an ultra-convenient bubble. And what I mean by that is you are a stone's throw, maybe a 5 to 10 minute drive from some of the best features that we have in Katy. So, for instance, with grocery stores, you've got Trader Joe's, you've got Whole Foods, you've got multiple HEBs, you've got Kroger if you want to shop there. Like, you have every grocery store at your fingertips. There's also specialties as well. We have the Asian Town, which is at 99 and I-10. So if you want specialty groceries, you can get those there too. If you have children, if you move out to this area, like literally every children's activity is, again, 5 to 10 minutes away. So multiple swim lesson places like taekwondo, dance lessons, cheer gyms, any kind of group sport, any kind of club sport, like it's all highly, highly localized to Cinco Ranch. You're also going to have every type of retail or entertainment that you're looking for. We have movie theaters. We have Pop Stroke, which is Tiger Woods' golf putt-putt setup. You've got Top Golf that's nearby. You've got like indoor racing. Like every restaurant, every type of entertainment is ultra centralized to Cinco Ranch. So I would say it can be a little bit more of a drive if you're kind of on one of the fringe or like outer reaching neighborhoods, but because Cinco is so central, like at 99 and I-10, you're just a few minutes away from some of the best features of Katy. And the fifth major pro of living in Cinco is, of course, the location. So I just touched on that a second ago. Cinco is positioned kind of on either side of the Grand Parkway and directly south of I-10. So to me, that is the most central part of Katy. So whether you need to get to I-10 or you need to get to the West Park Toll or 1093, I would say you're pretty well equidistant from both. And then of course, whether you're coming from the east side or the west side of the Grand Parkway, I would say it's about the same distance to get where you need to go. So this is great for people if they need to commute to the Energy Corridor, if they're going to the Galleria, if they're going downtown. I would say that most people would report that they would work in all of those places and still feel pretty comfortable getting where they need to go. When you go a little more southwest or you go a little more northwest, some people would say, oh, I would never live in Fulshire and try to get downtown, right? But in Katy, I would say people would say, yeah, I commute downtown and it's not great, but it's doable, right? So the central location, I would say, is one of the major draws of Cinco Ranch. So the pros are always the easiest things to talk about, but the cons, I would say, are a little harder to Google. If you're trying to relocate to the area and you're trying to figure out, should I live here or should I not? A lot of people just resort to Reddit because that's where people are most honest, right? I live in Cinco, and so I've got kind of an inside track that's Reddit-esque that I'm going to share with you here. So in my opinion, the first major con of living in Cinco Ranch is that the HOA is militant. Now, this is a sword that cuts both ways, right? Like we moved out of a neighborhood where the HOA kind of didn't care. People were doing kind of whatever they wanted. Maybe the neighborhood didn't look as good as it could have, right? But the flip side of that coin is that Cinco looks as great as it does because that HOA is on your case. Now, what they do is they have people who are HOA employees that will do quarterly-ish inspections where they drive through every quarter and they're going to look at your house and look for any violations. We also have heard through the grapevine, though this is unverified, but pretty well verified through gossip, is that every single section of Cinco Ranch, like all the little tiny pockets of neighborhoods, have a planted spy. Right? So these are going to be the people that are reporting you so that you get a violation letter if you leave your trash cans out like 12 hours too long, or if a car is parked in front of your house, which is wild because it might not be your car at all, right? So you might get letters regularly by living in Cinco Ranch, but the flip side of that coin is everyone's properties really do look great. Now, some of the more extreme examples, I would say like Infomark is the HOA that just came into power, so to speak, within the last year or two. I would say that they've been pretty vigilant and maybe not so consistently like applying the rules to everybody, and that has been very frustrating to residents. I suspect within the next like year or two that'll iron itself out, or they'll calm down quite a bit, just because residents have really been speaking out about how irritating they have been. Now, another thing to know is like pre-COVID, the Cinco Ranch HOA dues were uniformly and very consistently about $1,000 to $1,100 a year. Like it was like that for 5-6 years. And then within the last 5 years, I feel like the HOA dues have gone up $100 almost every year. So we just got a renewal notice at the time of this video. It's December of 2025 that says that your HOA dues for 2026 are going up to $1,550. So that's been $100 increment raises almost every single year since we got into the neighborhood in 2019. Like $1,000, $1,100, okay, $1,200, okay, $1,550, like that's starting to feel itchy for me. I really hope that they find a way to slow down the amount that they're increasing these HOA dues every single year. Another less discussed con of living in Cinco Ranch is that our cell service is attached to a wireless mesh network. What that means is that we don't have giant cell towers in Cinco Ranch. So while visually that is aesthetically pleasing, right? Like you're not seeing some huge 10-foot or 10-story tower. The flip side of that is that they have like this fluid mesh network, which they kind of look like light poles that are all up and down Cinco Ranch Boulevard, and they're wirelessly enabled. So what that means is that when the power goes out, you don't really have great or reliable cell service, right? So that has come up, unfortunately, fairly frequently. So we've had our power knocked out during Hurricane Beryl in 2024. We had our power knocked out during the derecho in 24. Power was knocked out in the freezes of 21 and 22, right? And it wasn't persistent, right? Like it's not like the power goes out all the time. But when it goes out, it is tending to be related to a weather emergency or a weather event, which is kind of when you need your cell phone, right? So that is something to be mindful of. Some people have like cell phone boosters like in their house, like a little wireless repeater that they find is helpful. but I would say that has been inconvenient to us as homeowners and residents of Cinco Ranch. Another con of living in Cinco Ranch is that the traffic is pretty intense regardless of the time of day. Now, I would say it is the most noticeable during dismissal or school drop-off, right? So I would say between like 7:20 and like 8:45, that's going to be where you're going to hit the most school zones, right? So you're going to be going 20 miles an hour. You're definitely watching for children crossing on their bikes. You should be careful, but you need to budget more time to get to where you're going. Now, throughout the rest of the day, I would say it's not bad. I would say if you're going 2 or 3 miles, you can get where you need to go within 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. But during those peak commuting times, if you're going 2 or 3 miles, double it. Now, in any kind of rush hour, whether it's like 8 a.m. or it's 5 p.m., so not even attached to school times, if you're trying to go 5 or 6 miles, that doesn't seem like a lot of like distance to cover, but you're going to want to budget somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes to go 5 or 6 miles. So for instance, we had our son in swim lessons, and it was 6.5 miles from his after school care. And I would pick him up and I'd be like, oh, it's only just across the freeway. And it took me literally 25 to 30 minutes to get that amount of distance, and it kind of drove me nuts. So we wound up switching swim schools just to avoid like going 30 minutes from Katy to Katy. So something to be careful of if you're going to move out to Cinco. And the last con of living in Cinco Ranch is that businesses close kind of early, right? So this isn't terrible, but it is something to be mindful of. So if you're looking for, let's say, a vibrant nightlife, you're going to be hard pressed to find that. Now, most people moving out to the burbs aren't really looking for like a club scene or a bunch of bars, but I would say it's very common for restaurants to close around 9 or 10 p.m. So if you work late or you commute really far, or if you just like want to go out for drinks, like be prepared for that place to shut down by 9 or 10. So look before you go. Another thing to consider is that like the retail is also something that'll shut down a little bit early. So it might be 6 or 7 p.m. Like if you need to pick up a toy to go to a birthday party, make sure that that toy store doesn't close at 6. If you need to go to we have an independent bookstore, super exciting, but it does also close at 6. So like if I pick my boy up at like 5 and I want to get to the bookstore, like I need to make sure that we probably only have, half an hour to really enjoy that before we need to tootle. So, limited business hours in Cinco is something that I would be mindful of. It's not a make or break, but it is something that affects people from time to time. Hopefully this video helps you understand the pros and cons of living in Cinco and why it continues to be a crowd pleaser after 35 years. If you're considering a move to the west side, I would love to be a real estate agent. And if you found value in what you watched here today, make sure to click the link below and subscribe. We put content like this out every single week. See you soon.